have you had that same thing where it's just like people telling you what you want and what they want in the studio? Have you had that work with like multiple players recording at the same time? Because that sounds complicated to me, right? Like if you have two players that are supposed to play together and you're giving them direction, getting them to do the same thing without writing something out, does that work? Like I'd love it if it did.
It's tricky. Again, I did a session the other day, that same one with the bass player playing cello. Everyone at this session was at a very high level, and there was a part where the songwriter and the engineer were like, you know what, at the end of the song, just kind of go crazy. We're like, go crazy, what do you mean? They're like, just make a bunch of sounds and a bunch of noise, and let's get some slides, and let's get some gypsy sounds. And so we all had to listen to each other. We did a few takes of it. It sounded chaotic, but that's what they wanted.
Okay, yeah.
So in that instance, it worked. But if you don't want something that's going to sound a little bit chaotic, then it's going to, the more musicians you add, the harder it's going to get. It's like putting a funk band together that's never played together and be like, play a funk song in E. Go.
And having it sound like perfectly arranged. Yeah.
Yeah. And you're like, you'll get something.
Something that sounds funky, but I don't know if it'll sound that great. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I think, we're all musicians. So if we're doing this for a living, money's a big factor. I think, there's a certain amount of money that it's probably going to take to just get someone out of their house these days, depending on,
seriously,
what kind of player that you are. So, yeah, it's definitely a factor. But everyone kind of, I think there's like a general ballpark rate, but really just calling around and seeing what it'll take, you might get like a certain average answer.
Just asking people for their prices.
Yeah. But when you're doing that, just be very as specific as you can with, I have this many songs. I have this much time in the studio. How much time do you have? And what do you charge? Do you charge by the song or by the hour? Right?
Do you do a lot of like hourly sessions? Because I typically don't. I'll typically do like a day rate or like a flat rate, and like I'll come in and do whatever. A lot of times it's not the full day, but it could be if they needed it. Like, is that more typical for you, or do you do a lot of like come in for 2 hours and make like X amount per hour kind of things?
So typically I'll start charging by the hour if it sounds like it's a situation where they're not quite sure what they want. They might need me to help them write some stuff once I get there. If I'm getting the sense that like they're not quite sure and they maybe need some expertise to help them through the session and get what they need, then I'll talk about hourly rates for sure.
Cool.
Yeah.
Any tips for getting like called back, like for those who are interested in doing more studio work? Like how do you get into that scene? How do you like get paid to be in that scene? And like what do you have to do to kind of keep getting called?
Sure. Well, I think first and foremost, if you're easy to work with, that's really helpful. Just be a nice guy or gal or person, and will typically leave a really good impression. Listening to the artist and trying to, interpret what they want, kind of stretching those like creative muscles would be good. And then really just, all the basics, showing good musicianship, playing in tune, being there on time.
Yeah.
Or early is on time, right?
Yeah, of course.
And, if they send you tracks beforehand, listen to the tracks, know what key you're in, know what the general layout of the song is at least. Yeah.
Cool. Tell us what you're working on right now. Like what's like the latest stuff coming out?
Let's see. Well, John Rawhouse just came out with a new track that
And
has
John Rahaus, for those who don't know.
genre house is pedal steel, banjo, mandolin, guitar, multi-instrumentalist. He's kind of a big deal in the Phoenix area
Definitely
and
like a
in the
local Phoenix legend for sure.
yeah pedal steel community. He's been touring with Nico Case forever. He's played with Billy Bob Thornton and um, God, Jacob Dylan and a ton of people. So, anyways, he's amazing. Um, and he's putting out some new tracks. So go check out his Bandcamp. There's one that I did violin and viola on. So yeah, and then I believe there's a new Blaine Long record that's going to be. I don't know when it's going to be released, but I did some again violin and viola tracks on that, and there's some cello too, not by me. But there's some really beautiful string arrangements on there. Sun Punchers going strong. Not sure when we'll be back in the studio, but there should be 2 songs that should be released soon that we worked on back last summer, I think.
Beautiful.
Yeah, or winter. I don't know.